Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here. I'm just a little bit too high on the stand. We'll just move it down a bit. Yes, we're here tonight. It's normally this is meant to be episode 12 of an Aussie and a POM talk all things about India and some number of aspects of both the impending IPL and the players that are in that tournament, including English players. There's also a discussion that we'll be having regarding the forthcoming, even as far as the World Test Championship. Hi, Behram Irani. Nice to see you there. Chris Vernon is not coming at this stage. Chris is actually unable to make it today. But what I do have is Monty Panesar coming, and he'll be here shortly. He's going to be about 15 minutes late, which is okay. I've decided to start to engage you on a number of upcoming exciting things that are about to happen. Certainly, Amaresh Suresh, we'll say hi to you. Now, we haven't had a program every day, and I apologise. I did promise you a show every single day, but I think it's important to have a small break because we're about to launch into what will be effectively a period of April the 9th until May 30th. In fact, it's really not April the 9th. It's actually today and tomorrow that we're really kicking off a very substantial broadcast campaign on the IPL, the Indian Premier League, into its 14th season. But it will also incorporate a lot of innuendos with both the Australian players, the English players, the West Indian players, some of the South African players that are there, and obviously the Indian contingent, which is huge. We have a very large following here in India, some 70%, but we also have some 15% that are from the USA. We have another several percent that are from Australia. Obviously, even the areas like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, UAE, you name it, quite frankly. There's a lot of countries that do actually take this broadcast, not only mine, but other platforms that I'm working with very closely. One of the major platforms that I'm working with during the IPL will be Extra Time, which has some 750,000 subscribers, a substantial platform, a very prestigious platform. Also, Sri Harsha Cricket, which has some 340,000 subscribers and has magnificent productions. I do a lot of voiceover work for them, for Sri Harsha, that is, and I'll be actually hosting a show on Extra Time starting tomorrow throughout the entire IPL series in conjunction with my platform, and also collaborating very heavily with another platform, which is the biggest and most important, in my opinion, fans platform or fans club that identify themselves with cricket, especially in India, but around the world. All expats, patriot people from all over the world come under the banner of the Bharat Army, BHARAT, the Bharat Army, that really are incredible platform. They have a magnificent following, very, very staunch, loyal supporters. Support through thick and thin are evident at all matches you'll see live, and they have a lot of program-based activity. They're going to work very closely with Extra Time, Bharat Army, and my platform of Eyes on Cricket. We're going to be able to combine together very nicely, and also Sri Harsha will have a lot to do with my work as well. So very exciting, the development there of almost 4 platforms. We also have a lot of Jared Kimber with his platform is coming and getting involved. Obviously, Sports Today have been involved before there, and even the likes of ABP News, Kuntal there, who's part of that program, will also be a part of that. So we're looking at that being the case. So you will have a number of other platforms getting involved. Now, very exciting indeed. And I'm very proud to be hosting the Extra Time show. Obviously, my platform will still have its regular shows as well. Preview, post-view, you've probably seen a number of videos that I put on regarding the likes of Pat Cummins, and Dave Warner, and some of the other Australian cricketers in their homes. Now, it's not pervasive or as invasive. It's very much true to the name. We should be proud to support them and to show that they've actually achieved something. They're great players. Pat Cummins, for example, he's 9.5 million, or he's 54 crores property there in Bronte, which I visited, is amazing. Hi, and Lakshmi Sharma's also there. Hitman, good evening, Mr. Norman. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Mother's doing a lot better, by the way, too, guys. She's not here at the moment. She's actually fallen asleep in the lounge room. It's been a very impressive period of time. And I do think you will enjoy the banter that I have with some of the Australian supporters, like both Sam Carter and his father, Paul and Pat. There's quite a few people there that were actually gaining a momentum. They're going to do a show with them regularly. A lot of the streetwise discussions are very relevant, and newspapers, obviously newspapers tell both online and in print. So yes, this regular program will be here. Bear with us. There'll be another 15, maybe about 15 minutes before Monty comes on. But Monty is very valuable to us. Monty Panesar, that is, of course, former England cricketer, still extremely relevant to cricket. He not only is broadcasting all over a range of English broadcasters, he's also very evident in India. India, in fact, has an amazing amount of coverage that Monty Panesar is the best person to pick. He's both English, a POM, which is a way of describing him, but he's also very much akin to the Indian race, has a Punjab background, and he's very, very loyal to his background, but he's also very loyal to England. And he was the Indian Legends League as part of the Road Safety World Series, and Monty represented England, and they didn't make the final. It was actually between India Legends and Sri Lankan Legends. India Legends, of course, had none other than Sachin Tendulkar, Yuvraj Singh, Virender Sehwag, Pragyan Aujla, who I know very well from his involvement with sports today. I didn't see Deep Dasgupta. I would have expected him to be there, but he didn't play. But yeah, it was a great platform. They ended up winning the tournament over Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had people like Jayasuriya, they had Maruf, they had a whole range of players that were there that Sri Lankan legends weren't quite good enough to beat India. But England, I thought they would have been a better chance. They had Kevin Peterson, they had Monty Panesar, they had Matthew Hoggart, they had a whole range of great players as well. And Monty, in the game that England played India, took the wickets of both, no less than Sachin Tendulkar and Yuvraj Singh. And don't forget the very first wicket that Monty Panesar took in his international cricket career was who? Tell me who. Who was Monty Panesar's first wicket? Monty Panesar's first test wicket in India, which is, remarkable. He's left arm slow bowling in India. His first test wicket was none other than Sachin Tendulkar. Not a bad first wicket in Test cricket. A memorable thing for you to have. Chris Frank, Chris is not here, but Chris has been a monumental part of all the things we've done. He has other commitments he actually is a coach as well, but he also has other commitments. He can't make it today, but he has been on 99.9% of the show. So an Aussie and a POM episode 12, which is today, is officially part of him, but will be represented by none less than Monty Panesar. So I'm very proud of that. Hitman says Pat Cummins is a hard-working, excellent bowler, and he deserves the money he gets, I think. I totally agree. The man is incredibly nice. His partner, also extremely nice. I actually got to meet, when I went to the property the other day, stopped and had a look. There was a lady there with an oldie. She was the she's still the current owner of the property about to be sold. She very respectfully said that she couldn't divulge who was actually the owner, but we all knew. She didn't discredit that fact, and she said he's a lovely person. So it was very, very impressive indeed. And I must say that was very worthwhile. So Monty's on. Thanks for joining us, Monty.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
We've got some exciting news, by the way, and I haven't been able to tell you personally, but I might as well divulge it on national television. The platform of Extra Time, which has 750,000 subscribers, in conjunction with the Bharat Army, which is probably is the leading fan base in the world for cricket, are joining on that program with me. I'm going to be hosting it, starting in the ensuing days, pre and post the actual IPL. And if you're available, Monty, you can happily join and whenever you feel. And we're looking to get you contractually arranged as well with that program. It's something I've just stitched together in the last hour or so, and I'm very happy about that. It's a major platform, and it's exciting because they're getting me to provide a similar thing that we do with my channel, but on a much bigger platform. There's also Sri Harsha. They are magnificent. They've got about 350,000 subscribers. They're a substantial platform. They're very well respected, and they deserve your attention. So I made you a part of it. Now, this program is normally called An Aussie and a POM Talk All Things Cricket. Now, Chris Vernon is normally the POM, but you're going to be the POM today, Monty.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did many people call you, you're a POMmy? Do they say that to you?
Not really. Yes, obviously, you know, I probably don't really look like a POM, but I guess.
But you are a POM.
But I am a POM, yes.
It's such a. I'm sure you realise, but you're in such a special situation in terms of cricket. You cover every diversity, every culture they associate with you in such a way, which is, to me, inspiring, because they look at you and think, and I keep repeating it, your first down wicket was Sachin Tendulkar. How do you sleep at night without thinking about that? Seriously, do you sometimes have this weird dream, not weird, it's a very real dream, of you going through that particular moment? Do you have that sort of dream?
Well, I think when I was a youngster, I probably thought about it, but now I don't really, you know, think about it too much. I guess with times you try and move on, you know, you want people to talk to you, well, talk about your success with what's happening now rather than what happened in 2006. You know, I'm in 2021, so hopefully, Norman, you can, you know, enlighten me this year.
I apologise. I don't mean to harp on it, but it doesn't define you at all, because you're a very intelligent man. You've got great qualifications. You're in various positions of your degrees, and you have gone beyond that. But it's still a moment in time that your broadcasting career is burgeoning. I mean, you're everywhere now, and I think that it's only onwards and upwards. And in particular in India, I think there's a great platform there for you. When you were there recently, your gauge on the culture, in terms of the time you first went there and the time you've gone there now, how much has it advanced? You must sense a change.
Yeah, there is a change. I think there's a change in how you know, cricket is broadcasted, and also the accessibility to cricket on media channels and you know, going to grounds. You know, it's a lot better now, with great transport infrastructure links. Yeah, they have a great knowledge on cricket in India.
I certainly do. But I mean, if you look at the world of cricket, and it's not just cricket, it's about sport in general, about the stature of the culture that relates to cricket. You look at a country like Oman that has some 4 million people, 3 million are expats. They've absolutely overwhelmed the country in cricket. Previously, they had gravel as their ground. Now they've got true grass. Dulip Mendes is now one of the head coach. He is the head of coaching there. It's such an incredible scene that it's actually lifted Oman to another level because of its expats, because of its, you know, diversity. Now it's not just traditionally a so-called Arabic country. It's got a lot more strings to its bow, and it has only helped it immensely. And you're a part of that because you see it every day. And this, our Dulip Mendes is going to be a part of this show in the future as well. He'll engage Oman. You know, there's so much to that. America, it has that diversity as well. Remember that tournament was on, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe it's actually more like 5 years ago, when Sachin and Warney went across to America and they played a Form of Legends tournament. Did you remember that?
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Were you a part of that?
No, I wasn't part of that.
That's a pity, because that would have been an amazing platform. They played on baseball grounds. They certainly got a lot of interest from Americans, not just expats that are living in America. And that's, to me, a diversity that's quite unique. I mean, the West Indian influence as well is strongly in there. So it's quite incredible. All right. Well, what we're doing in part today, we wanted to talk about a lot of other platforms, or other games. Pakistan and the likes of South Africa has just played. It was their second match. The form of the batting in that was quite remarkable. The fact that a person could score 193 not out and not win the match is quite staggering, wasn't it? Did you see that?
Yeah, that was amazing. It was great to see that how one player can score so many runs and hit the ball so well. It was a remarkable achievement.
And it should never be understated that the relationship to Pakistan and international cricket is certainly so raw. They have so much talent there that they're bringing up players that we don't generally hear of. And so it's a real importance to cricket to have that, as well as the West Indian team, with the way they played recently against Sri Lanka and the West Indies, the likes of a Cornwall. I mean, he's dear to my heart because he's chubby like me. What's your thoughts on him? Have you had a chance to meet Rakim Cornwall at all?
No, I never met Cornwall. I think he's a lovely cricketer, bowls a lovely off spin and gets the ball to drift in the air and get it to spin, off the pitch. So he's obviously a lovely bowler and bats very well, catches well. So a great addition to the West Indies team.
Exactly, and it's just, and he seems very humble, and he's batting prowesses are there as well. There's so many good things to like about that. There are a lot of young players out there, young kids around the world that perhaps aren't the fittest, but need to have a role model that they can imagine them being. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody should be 150 kilos, but the reality is there is a place for those people if they show the skills with their spin bowling. Now, in your case, not so much your case, but your ability to teach spin, it would be exciting to have a young kid that perhaps doesn't fit the mold of a spinner. He's such a big brute of a fellow, but he bowls such delicate spin, and I think that's the right way to put it. It's quite impressive.
He bowls a lovely spin. Gets the key fundamentals of spin bowling is getting over the front leg, is by spinning the ball with your fingers. So he does that really well.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. So your involvement in the future with what are you currently doing? You're involved with a number of English outlets. I've seen a number of the outlets recently. I mean, your posts are tremendous. Everybody should go to Monty's LinkedIn pages, his Twitter handles, and I'm surprised you haven't got a YouTube channel yet. But have you got a YouTube channel?
No, not yet, not yet.
Okay, something to consider, I think, in your future as well, if you have time, for God's sake. What is your most proudest media commitment that you have now? What is the one that you really look forward to?
Yeah, just coming onto your show, Norman. I think that seems to be yeah.
No, I didn't. I wasn't buttering you up to say about my show. That wasn't the case at all. But no, the reality is that you are worth your weight in gold, and it's been acknowledged. And Debash just saying from extra time I talked earlier, we're going to have you on. It was last minute discussions. We're going to bring you on, and admittedly, Chris is not here now, but Chris is also a part of it. But a lot of the people that I've been able to bring through, not you so much, you're already there, but Chris has come through my channel, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm looking for that to develop more. And I mean, there's an enormous platform with extra time. They're one of the favourites, of course, with the IPL, and I'm sure you've already realised this. The IPL has incredible structures around their 8 teams. Whether it's KKR or Mumbai Indians, they've got a powerhouse of energy around media. But it tends to be I shouldn't say one-sided, but it's about the team. And I get that. It's needed, and you have to be a supporter of that team. But I think there's plenty of options there for the ability to cross over. Now, Akash Chopra is another person we're getting involved, and he's going to be there as well. But it's just integral that your relationship to both the short form of cricket, the relationship to India, the fact that you've played there many times, and your insightfulness is, I mean, my God, I think I'd be the first, if I had to pick the first person to be talking about it, it would be you. Plus, you're articulate. I mean, I won't go into the looks. It's probably a bit biased if I go into the looks. Well, let's your fans talk about it in the fan club. But no, but you're a very smart fellow, and I really like. I've always appreciated it. Okay, enough about bragging about you, because we can talk all night. Some of the questions we're getting through. It's very interesting. We often hear discussion around the IPL teams, and there's such a thing as a SWOT analysis, the old looking at the strengths, the weaknesses of a team, the opportunities that the new players have brought to the team, and also the threats. Now, a threat can be both within the team itself, if they threaten their own play, the detrimental nature of some of the players in their own team, or the threats from outside. I think, to me, the most, and I want your opinion on this, a team like Royal Challengers Bangalore have a star star-studded lineup. They have AB de Villiers, they have Coley, they have a range of players that should beat any side. But are they overstacked with champions, and do they lack being a champion team? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, our RCB are a team that hopefully this year will show a bit more potential that they can, they can play to their level. So with the buying of Glenn Maxwell, I think that's going to help towards the RCB being a better team. And Virat Kohli wants to open the batting, so that will help him to establish that role which he wants to do in the T20 World Cup. So with that in mind, you there is a lot of pressure on them to score a lot of runs, but they have delivered in the past to keep scoring 180, 200. So in my opinion, I think RCB will score maybe a lot of runs, but we don't know if they've got the team to win matches.
Yeah, it's an intriguing situation that they're in, because even though there's an argument people tend to buy their IPL team, I think in this case you can buy but you can't win. And there's a certain stigma with certain teams that don't get across the line and win the finals. I'm predicting myself Delhi Capitals. Now, they haven't had a history of winning either, but the fact that they've elevated Rishabh Pant to captaincy in his current can-do attitude of winning all is where I think that difference will be. I think his ability to play in big moments could come to the fore here, and that's my thoughts. But yeah, Royal Challengers Bangalore, if you talk about a so-called strength, weaknesses, opportunity, threat basis, the strengths are clear. Their weaknesses are probably too stacked, as we've just said. Bring the opportunities to bring Glenn Maxwell into the same, certain, I agree with you wholeheartedly. He really needs to perform. Glenn Maxwell is, unfortunately, one of the most talented players, yet has probably not quite reached his consistent best throughout all formats that he's played in. Have you had much of a discussion? Have you met Glenn in many facets? Have you talked to him? What's your take on him as a person?
Yeah, I've never met the guy. I always find him, I think, a player who's got lots of talent, and I think he knows that too. And maybe he's a cricketer who's got too much talent, which he probably doesn't know how to put it into, structure his talent and put it into a nice sort of format where he knows, right, this is my role between maybe 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. So he knows which part of his talent he can tap into. And I think he's been quite unsure about that. And yeah, he plays some match-winning innings when it goes really well for him, but we don't see that consistent performance where you just think, oh yeah, that's the Glenn Maxwell of just getting the team over the line, another clinical performance, or Glenn Maxwell, last few balls, he could just turn it on and hit the boundary from cold, or the team's not doing great and he comes in and suddenly he's just able to take the pressure on and put the pressure back onto the opposition. It's always been a little bit inconsistent with him, and I think that's obviously led to his mental health, which not being great, because I just think that he's able, he had a great season with Punjab, and he played unbelievably well, but I think it was just that sort of purple patch he was going through, and he should, I don't know if he has a mentor, a sports coach or a performance coach who can actually just help him and sit down with him and just say to him, look, when Glenn Maxwell plays at his best, what do we see, and what is the situation of the game needs to be and how it is, so he knows that under these circumstances, this is when I play my best. But what about the other circumstances that he's put under? And I'm just not sure he knows what role to take, and then he kind of uses his energy in the field and bowl a few overs to kind of sugarcoat, the performance that he really wants to see from his batting. And he's a tremendous talent. He's a freak of nature talent. He's got the potential, to be like an AB de Villiers. But you can see with AB de Villiers or even Chris Gale, they know how to set up an innings. So you can see how they accelerate at the back end, or they know what they're doing. They're very clear about their roles. I just think Glenn Maxwell, hasn't quite found that bit in his game. And maybe with being with Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers, he can probably learn a bit more about how to use his talent and how to optimize it to, so effectively, like last year, he didn't really get Punjab Kings over the line because he probably wasn't too sure, himself.
Yeah.
What do I do here now? There's a few overs to go. I need to get the team over the line. How do I do it? I think he's not. I think he plays better when he's not the star attraction. He needs to be playing in team where there's bigger players than him. I think he finds that much more comfortable.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's the dichotomy, the actual breakdown of that particular team as it stands now. Maybe the best fit for Glenn Maxwell, and by what you're describing, the more and more I'm having to rethink my thoughts on that team. I have this immediate comment in my thoughts. Okay, great players, but not a champion team, and that's always concerning around me. And I must say, a man like Virat Kohli, who has got success written all over him, it must really be annoying him that he hasn't had that success through an IPL team. The likes of a MS Dhoni with CSK, clearly you would argue, past his best. But the aura of the man, the experience of winning of the man can drag a team through. And Rayner's back in that team as well, even though they're past their best. If they cleverly use their abilities and have good young players around them, they may end up being a threat. A lot of people are saying they're not, but I mean, you just can't discount them, can you? All right. So that's a very good analysis from you about RCB and the importance of Glenn Maxwell. I think you've hit the nail there. That's very well summarised. Let's look at or the obvious one, which we could talk forever about, is Mumbai Indians having won 2 championships in a row and moving into the third with almost the same outfit, a very stable team. You'd have to argue they're the so-called front runners, but the question mark comes over a team winning 3 in a row in anything, and that sheer good luck, bad luck scenario that could undertake through injury or through just bad form. I'm not saying they're going to have that result, but we have to be wary of that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think with Mumbai Indians, as they currently stand, they probably are the favourites to win it again. They are, supremely strong team than all the others. I think the key thing with them is that they're young, the young domestic players who are playing in with the Indian international side. They're the only sort of team which is providing younger players into the international setup. So from that point of view, they've got that base covered. They've got great overseas players. It is the team to beat. It is, I think with a couple of injuries, yeah, they may not be the same size. So they would be hoping that they have an injury-free tournament. And, you can see this year, like with Liverpool, they lost a couple of their key players and, they're just not the same team anymore. And I think that's with any sort of side. So, if Mumbai Indians stay injury-free, then, they'll probably win the tournament.
But there's also that hunger of other sides to knock off the champions as well, that mentally can play heavily both on the Mumbai Indians as well as a team like Delhi Capitals that appear to me have that hunger. With Rishabh Pant at the helm, he's wanting to put a stamp on it, and he's putting a stamp on international cricketer as it stands now with the retests, T20s and the like, but he hasn't got the ODI success that he should have, but I think he wants to put a stamp on it. And they've elevated him to captaincy, which was extremely clever, I believe, to give him the responsibility, which he seems to be able to handle. And his idols, who he plays with, like a Kohli or a Dhoni, it's his moment to shine. We may see the making of that man in this format, in this tournament. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. And I think that's what this IPL tournament's about. There's a lot to be played for this year. There's a lot of teams who would be assessing how they will do when the T20 World Cup, starts in October. So India will be getting a good eyesight to it, but also, some of the other players. So in my opinion, I think, like one of the, one players we don't really talk about is actually the New Zealand players, Okay, and Adam Mill, who's a great bowler for Mumbai Indians, and there'll be Kane Williamson playing as well. But then they got the Brendan McCullum, who's the coach of KKR. So New Zealand look like a strong outfit to maybe win the World Cup in India. But we always focus on India just winning tournaments in India, which has probably been the case when you got Tendulkar in your team, but with Virat Kohli and you're seeing his form kind of slip a little bit, and then also you've seen the introduction, of technology. During the technology is playing a huge role. The stumps are like, I think, another 20% bigger than they need to be.
That's
That's what
amazing, isn't it? That is
yeah, so
amazing.
many LBWs, yeah. And during that makes a huge difference on the decisions and the game. But I think the real concern is going to be the COVID cases in India right now. We're talking about the game, but I've heard that over the last couple of weeks it was 20,000. Today it was 100,000. Half of the cases are from Maharashtra. So that's going to be the biggest concern, and I'm sure the IPL organisers have got strict protocols in place. But let's hope that the tournament doesn't get postponed.
Well, we've had Axar Patel come down with COVID-19. There was a few others. I've just forgotten the other players' names, but it's becoming a bit prevalent. And I'm not sure why and I think they need, if they're not going to have any crowds and in fact no media at the venue, why don't they just play from one venue? I know it sounds boring, but they should play from one venue and they can lock down that venue and play every match. Well, it would ruin the ground, you might argue, in so many matches, but if one or two grounds they could confine it to, I think they've got to consider that. They've got to cut down the amount of grounds. So Maharashtra is an area where it's prevalent. They've got to leave that ground altogether. It's a matter of whether that's possible this late in the piece, but if they're going to have any ability to play this tournament, they're going to have to consider that pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, because when I was at the T20 Road Safety Series, I think Raipur was a brilliant stadium. There's hardly no fans coming in, right? Everyone can go to the Mayfair, resort, and there was like 6 teams, so there's effectively half of the IPL teams can stay there, and you can play half the IPL matches from there. The wicket is beautiful. It's absolutely flat. You can get 180, 200 scores. It's a no-brainer that, and Chhattisgarh, the cases are not so high, so it'd be a no-brainer to actually have some of the IPL teams actually resorting to Raipur because of just how easy accessibility is.
Just let me have a look. We've got a bit of a problem here. I'm not sure you can hear. Monty, there? We had a bit of a breakup. The reality is that is correct. They must be looking at that very seriously. It's a great model to take for this. Was it the one ground you played all the matches on?
Yes, one ground we played all the matches on, and the cricket was fantastic.
Well, why
The
not?
the groundsman knows how to cater for 4 or 5 teams. You have you have one ground, you have a few of the teams just training there 1 or 2 hours or something, and you just want to play IPL cricket, really.
So effectively, you've got a great model for the IPL to use. They must be, and I don't know offhand, but from your connections, it'd be interesting to see whether that's actually in place. They must be looking at plan A and B and C for this, and there has to be one. Let's be honest. I mean, forgetting the money for a moment, the IPL to me is the platform of platforms. It is. I think the world watches that more than we ever think, and I think it's relevant to the way they approach it. I think it has to go ahead. But I appreciate COVID being the problem that it is. But if you get rid of all of the obstacles, that is, no crowd, no media, and just the players turn out to one location, you can get around that. What other thoughts did you have? You've been there, so you're very relevant to this conversation, having played there, having travelled between locations. What advice do you have on the organisational side of it? And I don't mean detracting from what they've already done. Your thoughts are clear. You should be able to move to a ground like that almost immediately and have that sorted. How did you find the rigmarole of going between airport to ground? Was that all well handled too?
Yeah, look, I thought it was very well handled. We went from Delhi to Raipur, 6 hours. We got there, stayed at the lovely hotel, which all the other teams are in there, so it's easy to manage. 50, like each team will probably have 20 people, 100 people, to manage, or over 100 people to manage in a big resort. That's easy to manage, 100 people. That's it. That's all you're doing,
Yeah.
and then within that, you just get everyone to quarantine for 3 or 4 days, 6 days beforehand. Obviously, they're quarantining now. Make sure you're okay. You stick to your protocols and everything, and that's it. That's the easiest to manage in one place. But then when you have different hotels, different places, it's difficult because the IPL is also economic perspective. That we kind some grounds will be making money from it. There's a political agenda. Some IPL owners, teams want this is the political ground we want it. So Raipur isn't. BCCI don't actually own the ground; the government owns the ground.
Right.
So that could be an issue as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors like that at play. But when a ground is being used in such a time where COVID is enveloping the situation, that all has to go out the window because they won't gain a damn cent, even if it's played on the local ground, because there were no engagement of fans. There's no monetary outlet of the ground being used. I think they're going to have no alternative. Okay, just a question. There's a question being asked about going back to the Pakistan-South Africa match, the run out of Fakar. Did you see that when that throw came back? That was such a sad moment, wasn't it? The way, and there was some.
Oh yeah, I think there's a level of sportsmanship. They won by 17 runs. They could have just, even if you hit if you hit a 6 or give him another 10 runs, he probably would have got his double 100, and they would have won by 10 runs. They would have won comfortably. They obviously tricked him. It was so obvious, and he was exhausted. The poor fella. He could have just, and they shouldn't. I think Quinton de Kock would have got plaudits if he just caught that ball and never let it hit the stumps and said, "Oh, it's all right, take your 2 runs," and
exactly.
and that's it.
It's such an unfitting way to be dismissed.
Yeah, it's a similar thing what like Greg Chappell did, Under Armour. People don't remember you for your skill as a cricketer, how you played the game and what you brought. Like, yeah, Greg Chappell, we all know is great, but you always look up to Ian Chappell, but you look slightly down to Greg Chappell because of that. And I'm sure everyone think of Quinton de Kock as such because of a magnificent innings of 192. But yeah, look, he could have thrown to the other end. Could have said, "Oh, let's let him get 2." Do you know what I mean? And see if we can get him to a double 100. Even though we're going to win the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting you talk about Ian and Greg Chappell. I know them both very well. And Ian Chappell has this element of stature and values. I'll give you an example. Neil Harvey was involved in an event that I was organising in Sydney a few years back. And Ian came for no other reason but to be there because of Neil Harvey. Now, I'm not sure whether you've met Neil Harvey. Monty, if you come next time to Australia, I'll get you to meet Neil Harvey. If ever there's a former cricketer that covers such a range of periods, having played with Bradman, having been a selector of the Chappells and the Tomos and the Lilies and beyond, his knowledge of cricket is amazing. Even though he's 92, he's as sharp as a tack, and his sake calls a spade a spade. Ian Chappell reveres him. Ian Chappell says a lot of what made Ian Chappell, other than Victor Richardson, his grandfather, was from Neil Harvey. I take him to the local coffee shop there in St Ives in Sydney, and what he says, Monty, is amazing. The way he talks, it's so refreshing. I'm actually, if I can get him to come on the show, it'd be ridiculous, but he shies away from media now, but the man is brilliant. And Ian came to that event because Neil would be there. No other reason. He honoured Neil and his presence was there. Greg, albeit was a great player, he tends not to have that same level of stature. And I feel sorry for Trevor Chappell because it was ultimately Greg Chappell that made him do what he did. And anyway, being the younger brother, it's quite an incredible situation. Not unlike the Ranatungas. You've got four brothers that played for Sri Lanka. Have you met the 4 brothers of Arjuna? You obviously would have come across. But did you met
No, I haven't. I've met Arjuna, that's it. I haven't met the others.
well,
You always remember,
sorry.
you always think that there's only Arjuna. There wasn't anyone else. You forget the other 3, don't you?
No. Well, Dharmika Ranatunga actually came before Arjuna. So he was like the leading player. Then Arjuna came along. Then you have Sanjeeva, who scored centuries for Sri Lanka, who's an amazing guy, and Nishantha, who played a lot of ODI cricket. and played at that level. So played for his country. And can you imagine a family of 4 brothers that have all played for their country? I mean, Arjuna stands out because of his World Cup exploits, but having met the other brothers, they are all of equal. They've got a further 2 brothers, Rohan and I've forgotten the last. We've got another plot as well. They are both politicians in Sri Lanka. It's quite an incredible relationship which they have. All right, I wanted to also talk about, Monty, the 100. What's happening? What do you know about the 100 in there in England? What's your knowledge about that?
Yeah, it's you know, it's, I think by August should have at least 50%, you know, fans and you know, other people sort of, you know, getting involved. So yeah, I think yeah, it's I think the timing's perfect. You know, I think here in England the cases are down to like 10 or 20 now. It's like hardly anything. And yeah, we're definitely on the way to get at least crowds back into stadiums by June the 21st, and then by July, August time, yeah, the fans should be. It'll be disappointing if that's not the case.
Okay, interesting. To me, the format though, 20 overs, 5 ball overs, one end, then another end. Look, I understand why they're doing it. They're bringing time factor into play, less and less time involved. But I'm a little bit concerned about, I don't want to say the detriment of the game. I understand why they've tried this format, and I'm not sure whether you want to talk about that. But do you think it's the right direction to take?
Look, it's ICC wants to make this cricket global, right? Make it globalized. So global, like, you know, we're going to have more teams in the World Cup, and it's interesting what you're saying. Like you're trying to say that, are we making the game more like entertaining rather than sport?
Yes.
It becomes an entertaining package rather than actually sport itself. And that hopefully isn't the case. Or if it is the case and it allows the game to become more globalized, like 100 could be the way that the Americans understand the game.
That's
Or
true.
other countries. Other countries maybe not understand T20, but they could understand 100. So as long as it's a success and it's growing, then that would be a great plus point for you know, cricket around the world.
Well said. Well said. I think you've held the right discussion point there. If it grows the game and it's accepted and it goes into places such as in America, which we can't forget is our second biggest world audience. Every time I talk to people about that, whether it's in an Uber or wherever I happen to be, I mention that, no one ever gets that. No one ever goes America. They always think, you know, Pakistan, Bangladesh, England, wherever. But it's the second biggest audience, and that's some 10 to 15%, and it's growing. I've even noticed with my show, my viewership is more and more American. It's quite, and I'm thinking, wow. And I'm trying to work out where they are. Now, someone like Pretty, of course, is in California. I'm not joking. I'm quite serious. Whether she's responsible, she probably thinks that she is, and she probably has a lot to do with it. She's been fanatical. Her knowledge has gone through the roof in the time that we've known her. But the reality is, it's Florida. It's a stronghold. New York's a stronghold. California's a stronghold. And the fourth one is Texas. And I'm unable to work out what's going on there because I don't know enough about Texas regarding cricket. But I want someone from Texas to come on and tell me what they're doing there, because it seems to be also wherever the IT areas are, which brings into play Northern California. You get your, you know, your Utahs and wherever the actual Silicon Valleys are. Clearly, there's a lot of Indian expats there, but it's not just that. It's the New York's particularly strong from diversity. Florida, oh my God, have you been to Florida?
No, I haven't. I heard there's a £40 million stadium there, cricket stadium.
Exactly. Fort Lauderdale's outrageous. Monty, we're going to have to make a point of this. We'll get Merv to get involved, because Merv loves his Florida. He's obviously in Antigua. We need to get you to head up a team in the so-called USA Cricket League, not unlike what you've done with the Legends League, and get you involved with Florida, because I know Florida is an amazing stronghold and they would love you to come there. So it's a matter of teaming up. Again, depending on sponsorships and all other things we're going to get, when we can actually make an effort to go to that part of the world, we'll organise something through the connections we're building and have an extra time tournament or whatever base we'll get that involved, because if that's 15% of the audience of the world, and then literally probably 2/3 of that is in Florida, that almost makes Florida number 2 behind India. Florida alone.
Absolutely.
It's hard to, if you think about it, who would ever say India, then Florida, then Pakistan, England, Bangladesh? Would you have ever thought of that? No. And there's an example. You haven't been there. Many people haven't been there. The opportunities are humongous, and it's testament to what they've done there. I mean, who have you got living there? You've got like Lawrence Rowe, I believe, is there. You've got Lance Gibbs. You've got I've forgotten the other fellow. Who was the famous West Indian bat that scored a lot of runs? Chanderpaul. I think Lara's got a base there as well. There's a burgeoning group. I mean, Jeff Crow, Martin Crow's brother, is one of the heads of that Fort Lauderdale Stadium. And a lot of New Zealanders have got, a lot of Sri Lankans, a lot of West Indians. It's got a great structure already. So it's the only problem with USA cricket is that they have the hierarchical nature of it. They haven't quite worked out one true leader of the overall. There's a lot of subgroups. No one's come across the top and said, which maybe the US government has to play a role now, I think, to create a board that's above everything else, because that's what it lacks. Monty, there could be a role for you there. You could be the chairman of the USA Cricket Board.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
You would be a great ambassador from all facets. It's something to think about. We're going to get more into that, because I know there's some subgroups there, but we need to find out what's going on there and get involved, and if we can promote it.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's talk about the next episode then. I'll probably have to go now.
Okay, all right. Sorry,
yeah.
Monty. I can talk. All right. So
yeah.
Okay. So tomorrow there's going to be an introduction to the IPL on extra time.
Yeah.
At a certain time. I'll let you know the time slot for that. If you're interested, you can come along to that. Would you be interested?
Yeah, I'll be interested in that.
Okay. And then subsequent from that point, we'll look at previews and post views of matches as well. And that'll be certainly the case. But the most important thing, we've talked about some of the sides today. We'll talk about more sides leading up to the platform itself being on stage. The first game being April 9th, there's a lot to be said. So it actually suits England time very well, because the timing, I think it's 9 hours from me. So you're 4.5 hours behind Indian time. So if a game's happening at 8, 9, 10, finishing 11, it's a suitable 6:30, 7:30 time slot for you, where I think you can have your cup of tea and be able to be a part of it. So let me get you involved, Monty.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks for your time. And I must quickly laugh about when we last were together, we had the Aussie, the so-called Palmy Army. They announced they were going. You went as well. And then I had 40 more minutes of an episode. And I had all these people who came to me, one 84-year-old named Lionel. Amazing. I don't know if you got to see that. It was really funny. All right. Well, thanks, Monty. You're sensational. And I'm going to make a point of getting you involved with all that were in front of me. You're a treasure. You're an asset to anyone's commentary team. And I'm certainly going to push your cause as you deserve. Thank you very much, Monty. So if you wish to go now, please, we'll talk more tomorrow and in future days. And everyone here on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Constant, thank Monty for his time. An Aussie and a POM talk cricket in India. Well, we've just had that with a true POM, Monty Panesar. So thanks for your time, Monty.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say, all right, guys. So it was great to have Monty, wasn't it? His ability to cross over from cricket in England to cricket in India, the Legends tournament, the future of cricket is quite amazing. So we've had a few people spam. I've ignored you, so that doesn't matter. If we can perhaps look at the situation now that we have the 8 teams. And I've talked a bit about Mumbai Indians, about KKR, about also the likes of Delhi Capitals. Punjab Kings do have KL Rahul. There's a concern around Jofra Archer, I believe, and there's one of the real concerns is around Jofra Archer. He certainly has a limitation to how he can play. We've got to be understanding of that situation. I think there's a lot to be said about that actual situation. Now, Tabasha Sen has provided some very good updates on these teams. Now, clearly, when you look at the Punjab Kings, they're without. They just haven't got their act together in terms of their selections, in my opinion. Dawood Malan is certainly one X factor which is there for Punjab Kings. He's certainly worthy of that position. He is a great player, deemed to be the number one player in the world on his stats. And the strength is clearly through KL Rahul, of course, and with Chris Gale, Milan, and Nicholas Pura. They've actually brought together some players there, but are they bowling wise strong? They certainly have a batting strength. The bowling is definitely their weakness. Mohammad Shami, of course, and the likes of Jofra Archer and Jai Richardson are there, and Riley Meredith are yet to actually represent. There's a question mark about their bowling, and maybe a season or two away from being good if they keep their same stocks. But at the moment, they are lacking somewhat in their play there. So again, thank you to Monty. We have Bilal Studio mentioning it there. In terms of opportunities, they always have a perfect platform by the promising youngsters they show. The Ravi Bishnoi is also there. The threats, of course, will be that they cannot field the best playing 11 in this multiple games due to injury, Shami being one of the major ones. So that's probably Punjab Kings maybe not figuring the top 4 teams, but you never know. Everything goes their way. Mumbai Indians have some misfortune. They may sneak in. So that's Punjab Indians, and CSK is another where Chennai Super Kings certainly have Dhoni. They've got Raina. They've got a lot of past glory. They may have also the experience levels, but have they got the right team? They may also struggle. CSK and Punjab Kings probably the two that are going to struggle, whereas the other 6 are more in contention. KKR would certainly be in contention. Delhi Capitals, in my opinion, which will win. That's my thoughts. Mumbai Indians on form and on paper should be another threat, with the likes of Royal Challengers Bangalore, based on the inclusion of Glenn Maxwell, may in fact have those 4. So those 4 might be the other. So we've gone through 6. The other 2 teams, Sunrise Hyderabad. Now, Sunrisers Hyderabad. Now, clearly, Sunrisers Hyderabad have Dave Warner. And Dave Warner is someone who has already had success with this team. There's Kane Williamson's in the squad as well. They have an element of solidity about their team. They'll feature very strongly, but whether they've got the capability to win the tournament is not necessarily there. So that effectively is another team that will be of some concern. The other team that I haven't mentioned is Rajasthan Royals. Now they have Samson at the head of the helm of their team. Certainly a great young star in the making, if not already. He will be pivotal to lead the team through, and the youthfulness of the team. Rajasthan Royals will certainly fare quite well, but they would probably be in the bottom of the top 6, I would argue as well. I'll go back to Delhi Daredevils, as they were called, Delhi Capitals. I have to be very strong in my decision-making process or my thought process there. With a guy like Rishabh Pant, if he is injury-free and at the top of his form, which he seems to be in, and is allowed to captain from the front and be a leader, he could be the difference. He could be the making of Rishabh Pant. There was a great coverage on Sri Harsha about Rishabh Pant and the way he conducted himself both in Australia and in the recent England series. There's no doubt about it. In both cases, he certainly has shown the way. And Rishabh Pant is the man that I will be looking out for. I think he is certainly the player that can really provide that pizzazz. I mean, you could argue Glenn Maxwell, can do the same, but I just don't know that factor. We heard Monty talk about Brendan McCullum from KKR as an influence, and the New Zealand players. Yes, they'll be certainly able to influence, but I don't know whether they're going to be enough to win. Now, Biram Irani, Norman, do you think BCCI was involved in the decision of Punt to be captain? No, I don't think necessarily they would have applauded it. They would have applauded it for sure. But I think it was specifically around Delhi Capitals realised that under the circumstances of Shreyas Iyer not being available, don't forget he was captain over Rishabh Pant, that when he is not there, that is, Shreyas Iyer cannot captain, he can be part of the squad in terms of be the greater squad and be a mental role in his injured state. The obvious choice was Rishabh Pant. BCCI's influence? No, because it was an injury to Shreyas Iyer that got him into the role. It wasn't based on them picking him over Shreyas Iyer. So no, that probably wasn't the case. I don't think the BCCI has got quite as much influence as they may have had earlier on. Don't forget, the IPL's gone now into 14 years. 14 years. It's developed its own beast. Look at their social media. They've got multi-million subscribers purely for each and every team. Individually, their team media arm is very strong. Although obviously when you have a media arm for one team, they go to the intimacy of the team very nicely, but probably go a bit too far. They don't necessarily take an unbiased approach, which is not a concern. They have every right to make sure their team gets the full breadth of coverage, but I don't think there's a problem with it. I don't think this has gone for 14 years, this platform, and it's still one of the wealthiest competitions in the world. No, not one of, the wealthiest competition in the world, and far surpasses anything else. To me, I was probably not as big an IPL fan early on as I am now. I think it's created a level of sophistication. You got the BBL in Australia, which is not a bad tournament at all. It doesn't match the IPL. The 100 or the various versions of the game that are happening in England. I'm a little bit sceptical at this early stage. I mean, Monty answered it very well. He was very diplomatic. He said, quite if it works and it's a success and brings in platforms or locations into America, then albeit how great that is. So that is an alternative. And you got your CPL, the Caribbean Premier League, which has actually been quite a success, heavily Indian supported, but it's been a success. Then you got the PSL, which is certainly Pakistan Super League, is unearthing great players and allows. I mean, Milan's with the IPL, but you've got, I think it's Vince. Vince is actually in the was in the PSL, and would be a loss to this tournament. It's great to see in the IPL the England influence, the Australian influence, the New Zealand influence, the South African influence, and the West Indian influence. The major influences. Afghanistan, Bangladesh are there as well. Not as prominent, perhaps. Sri Lanka, very little Sri Lankan involvement. And it's quite disappointing that Sri Lanka don't have much way in involvement at the moment with the IPL. Pakistan, no involvement. So that's how it stands. And you'd have to argue that it's still great coverage. I'd like to see more genuine attempts to get the lesser tiered cricket teams involved. There's been an attempt. ICC have made an attempt. They bring emerging countries into the play, especially women's cricket. You know, there's an emerging team of players that come into Australia. Only recently, Rahman Ahmed was involved from Bangladesh, had a bevy of players in there that were the lesser nations, you would argue, but have done very, very well. So in the tournaments in the Asia Cup as well, or another. Looking at long-term, Irani's saying, looking at the long-term, BCCI might have put pressure or a word. I can understand you saying that, Bahram, but I don't think they would need to, because Rishabh Pant is his own vehicle. He is, as they're often saying, he's not the next MS Dhoni. He's the first Rishabh Pant, and that's a fair comment. Ganguly certainly says the same. He thinks he'll be dominating 10 years of cricket. BCCI don't have to worry about that. I mean, if Rishabh Pant didn't captain, he probably would still dominate from his batting perspective, but captain's the icing on the cake. I tend to disagree with you that the BCCI had a word. They wouldn't need to have a word. It's obvious that would be the next captain in terms of the leadership qualities that he has. So I don't think they needed to actually necessarily have a word at all. I think the BCCI, give them some credit where credit's due, don't necessarily influence every single thing that happens. They have a say, yes, but I think they don't have to in a lot of cases where they may appear to do so. The amount of involvement with Punt on his own 2 feet has been great. I mean, they certainly had a role to play when he was selected for the team over Wriddhiman Saha, obviously. And Wriddhiman Saha, despite being a better gloveman, didn't have the pizzazz and doesn't have the finishing qualities, although it can bat well, of a Rishabh Pant. Okay, let's have a look at some other comments there. We've got not as many there. All right, so in terms of this particular session, we've gone an hour. Chris Leonard will be with us at later stages. It's great to have Monty today. I'll have Alan Mullally in the future. Pretty and Apana will come back to us very soon. They've all had small breaks. Pretty's been in the Virgin Islands. I think Apana's had a lot of studies to do. All well and good. We need a break, and I mean, I'm here as your stable backbone, but we're not going to discount from that. So I have my doubts. Look at the other options that DC had to make captain. Ashwin Smith. Well, Steve Smith's new to the team, so no, he doesn't have any right just to go straight in as captain. I don't agree with you at all. Ashwin, I don't think he really wants to captain, to be honest with you. I think he's got so many things at the moment that he does that captaincy is not really one of them. And look, to be honest with you, I think as far as leadership is concerned, you might find that Punt's the best. Indeed. So Gautam Avula, I think 5 overseas players should be allowed to play. Well, I can't see why not. If the quality's there, well, then bring them in. But the Indian quality is also there. We can't take away from the fact that Indian quality of players is enormous. They have a great sense of play as well. They're not lacking at all. They're not lacking in terms of numbers. The reality is that this is far from of any concern. I think you'll find that Indian player standards are enormous, and they probably deserve to be seen that way because they certainly are. Their level of Indian play is amazing. I mean, we've got Prithvi Shaw still floating around there, Agarwal, Axel Patel, of course, has got the COVID-19 scenario there, but there's been so many players that are coming through the IPL too that are significant. Ishant Kishan is another, and they've got Sky as well. It certainly has performed very, very well indeed. So yeah, no problems at all. I think that's certainly the case. So let's not forget this program will be here every night on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnak. We still have that platform which will not go away. A number of great guests. We had Monty tonight. I mean, how blessed are we to have someone like Monty Panesar share his time with us? Irani says, imagine 10 teams from next year. That's going to be interesting. Maybe they will need a significant upgrade to the number of international players. The fact is that the Indian playing list is getting endless, and understandably so. So why has the quality of Australian cricket gone down so badly when you compare it with unbeatable 90s and early 2000s? That's Hitesh Basi. Yes, there's certainly a lull happening in Australian cricket. But having said that, though, and I should release this media conference that was put on, I think it was yesterday, Jason Sangha, who's 21 years old, captained the Australian under-19s team in the World Cup against India. India won that with the likes of Gill, Prithvi Shaw, a whole range of players. Jason Sangha captained the under-19s team and did it very, very well. He scored a number of centuries against England, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, the international sides when they've come to Australia to tour. He's been the Australian A side. His personal form dipped a little bit over the last year or so, but he got 103 in the recent state match. And just as we were calling out for someone to stand up and be noticed, Jason Sangha yet again has scored a century. The boy, who is now a man, is very humble, very astute, very articulate, a great leader amongst men. 21, scoring 100 for New South Wales, which is a level below Australia. He does that 2 or 3 more times on a regular basis, which he will undoubtedly do so. Next season, depending on the Australian makeup, whether Bukowski's there and what happens with Tim Payne and the like, and with Steve Smith lurking around as captain, I would love to see Jason Sangha in the mix. Give him a go, even though he's not been in perfect form. Scored 103 the other day against Queensland, which Adam Hollier got to do with. Of course, he's the batting coach of Queensland. Jason Sangha will be a major player in Australian cricket. He's only 21. He's already reached the heights. He deserves to be given a chance. And once he's given the chance in the Australian makeup, and the short form as well, yes, but in the test format, he will prove to be a winner. He could well be our next long-term Australian captain. And imagine Jason Sangha of Indian derivation, very Australian, though, lives now in Coogee near me. It's my area. He would be the ultimate next Australian captain because of his stature, his cricketing ability, his mentality, his subconstant relationships. Perfect solution for Australian cricket. Watch this space. I've said it earlier, but I think Jason Sanger is one to watch out for. All right, so if there's no Australian cricket, will certainly have its dip, but I think someone like Jason Sanger could bring them to the fore, as should have Khawaja if given more of an opportunity. All right, guys, we might end the program there. This is Norman Kochnick on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. Here we are. Please view, like, and share. Now, please hit the subscribe button. I'm getting around 10% of the people that view actually hit subscribe. Let's all subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and by subscribing, you're allowing us to grow the channel. And also hit the notification button, so when future live shows come on, you're able to then view them and view them happily. Maybe you can close with your view on t-shirts and jerseys. Okay, are you talking about Barani t-shirts and jerseys of my merchandising, or do you mean the actual team jerseys? I think they're brilliant. I think they're magnificent, multicolored, sometimes indefinable. I mean, CSK is clearly that yellow. They're great to see. I think Indians do it well with it. The stylish jerseys, it's quite amazing. I think they're brilliant. Barnstead Boys joined very late in the piece. It's already come to the end of the hour, Barnstead Boy. Chris is not here because he's busy coaching, but he'll be in future episodes, as you know. Mate, the shirts and jerseys. I mean, t-shirt. Well, these are t-shirts. We already have a great image of Adam Hollyoak. I mean, what I'm wearing now currently, if you want to have a look at it, that's to do with that was the Australia versus Indian. Can you see it? Australia versus the Summer of Cricket. That was quite a nice shirt. We could go for something similar to that. If you let me know, we might get I like to get all the members to be listed on a t-shirt with their names and some of the commentary on it to make it real. That'd be a great t-shirt for sure. I'd love to have that printed out. So that's one of the ideas I've got. Caps. Now we can get an Eyes on Cricket logo. I'm going to go tomorrow to an agency to see what I can do with caps. I've got to get a cap for extra time as well, so I'll do that for sure. Amit Srivastav, you're back, and Barnstead Boy. Where have you both been? You've been late in the piece making comments. Usually you're here from the beginning. Didn't you have a notification for the actual hour? You should have had a notification. Okay, Barnstead Boy saying Chris and Norman as Laurel and Harding on a t-shirt. Well, Barnstead Boy, why don't you get one printed up and get Chris to wear it? You're his father. Why don't you buy him an early birthday present and get him to wear that t-shirt? I think that'd be a great idea. Small bat with my autographs. Well, yeah, okay. It's really funny because I actually have I'm very blessed. If you go to the Sydney Cricket Ground, the SCG that is, in the main member stand where you've got Bradman, Keith Miller, Ray Lindwall, even Viv Richard, even Vera Colley's up. There's some amazing history of SCG where Bradman played. At the back end of the stand, which is now a closed area, it's called the SCG 11 Clubhouse. We have about 30 or 40 framed pictures of all of our games and tours of India, Ashes tours, games in the SCG, games on grounds around Sydney and New South Wales and other states. And I'm featured in quite a few of them and actually have bats where I've signed. So I might do that for the fun of it. It's quite a proud moment to be in probably the second most significant cricket ground in the world behind Lords and have your name up in lights, pictures of you, signatures on a bat. It's quite daunting and quite a special thing. So yeah, we could think about that. Bats could be done, I think. Irani, if you know of a producer, we could do that. I'm going to get YouTube to help us as well. Yeah, IPL jerseys are the best. I'd love to be able to get one. I don't know whether I can get them online, I'm sure, but I wonder if I can get them physically at a shop here in Australia. I'd love to. Maybe you guys can, if one of you can actually get me an XXXL version of a Delhi Capitals or a RCB or a KKR shirt, I love it. So yeah, there was a lot of. You're right. In the 2000s, there used to be a lot of cricket memorabilia sold by the likes of Richie Benno and Tony Gregg and Bill Laurie and Ian Chappell. Used to often promote that. Well, let's see if we can get some of that back together. I certainly have quite a bit. I have some amazing memorabilia. Some of the people I know in Australia. I actually promised to do this, and I haven't done it, which is my fault. Craig Hawkins, Bruce, my old mate Bruce. Craig Hawkins, Bruce Hawkins, it should be said. John Dunn, they've got memorabilia coming out of their ears. Adrian Rafter, you've got amazing memorabilia. I should get a view of what their memorabilia is if you'd like me to do that as well. I think it looks cooler because of the clear camera quality. Okay, sure. The reality is I will get some hats done. In fact, I'm going to go tomorrow in the shop and see what I can design an Eyes on Cricket one and one for Extra Time, which I'll be doing some work for. When am I coming to Roshan? When am I coming to India? It's not that easy at the moment. Don't forget, in India at the moment, the IPL should have been where I would love to have been. But two things. One, COVID-19 is getting worse, up to from 20,000 to 100,000. You've got no ability for any media to go into the stadiums, no ability for fans to go into the stadium. I may not be allowed into the country. I certainly wouldn't be able to get out of the country easily. There's a lot of ifs and buts at the moment, which frustrates me now, because if I had a choice, I'd be there every time. If you look at the actual community page and my community page, you'll see that you know, there's a lot of on my community page. You'll actually see a lot of posts that I make from when I was in India. I've been to India many times. Been around the IPL. Was very lucky to go there one year with Kunal Sharma, with his involvement with CSK, and I went there to Chennai. It was magnificent. So I'm not there because I don't want to be. I want to be there. But don't forget, we've also got the World Cup coming in. Hopefully all the stars align and we're allowed to go there for that. All right. Travel from the UK is banned, Barnes said, boy. So that says it all, doesn't it? So, Biram Irani, you were the one that just rang me a minute ago. It was you, wasn't it? What are you ringing me for? Well, I saw that on my mobile. All right. So I will have to leave you all now, guys. I think we've had a long session today, and you'll hear more from me. We're going to be on tomorrow. We're going to be on every single day. I've had a couple of days off. And don't leave me because of that. For God's sake, don't leave me. Don't disappear on me on that. Keep at me, because I'm going to be there as regular as I can. Great guests. You know I'm going to bring you good guests. And the platforms that we're going to bring up in the future, the involvement with the likes of the Bharat Army, the major fan club around the world, the involvement with Extra Time and Sri Harsha, it's all going to happen. So watch this space tomorrow. We'll have programs. Look at subscribe, and then hit the notification button. Be ready for it. And also see me on Instagram. I'll be there as well. An Aussie and a POM live from the Gabba. Well, it's not possible today, but it will be in the future when Chris turns up. Certainly. Good night, everyone. So that's good night from me. My whole family miss you and our show in India versus Australia series. Well, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here. And I actually had a program in Extra Time just recently, I think yesterday, on Pat Cummins from his home in Bronte. All right, guys. This is Norman Kochnick signing off from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. View, like, and share. Subscribe. Become a member if you wish to as well. Yes, Barnes for the Ashes. I'll certainly be a part of it. I've got messages coming from everyone. Let's say goodbye now. Subscribe. Pass on your WhatsApp and get more and more people so we can grow this channel. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Okay. Again, this is Norman Kochnick on Eyes on Cricket.